Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, an unlikely alliance targets Indiana's alcohol laws. We spotlight a pro bono service for Indiana inventors. A major affordable housing initiative is moving forward. The business of health spotlights a pioneer in an emerging science. The INnovators features a fashion tech company. An Indianapolis winery is celebrating a big expansion. And our panel of insiders takes on the week's top stories. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. At odds for years on alcohol laws, the Indiana Association of Beverage Retailers and the Indiana Retail Council have come together on a slate of policy agreements. The groups have agreed to support legalizing carry-out Sunday alcohol sales while opposing the expansion of the sale of cold beer. IABR President Patrick Tam and IRC President Grant Monahan joined Inside Indiana Business Television host Gary Dick to talk about the move.
The two of you, for many years, were at odds on this issue of Sunday sales, expanded cold beer sales. What changed to bring this deal about?
I think, Gary, it's a great question. While Grant and I personally have worked together on quite a few issues, I think our members are Indiana small business owners. We listen to our consumers. Look, we are working together to deliver results for Hoosier consumers, and that would be to deliver Sunday sales at the same time delivering and making our legislative priorities known to the General Assembly that we are, in fact, working together on a very straightforward Sunday sales bill. And it is a regulated product, and we're not looking to compromise on safety. And there were other items in that announcement that we also agree on that we believe are important for Hoosiers as well. Yeah,
Grant, as you look at this, and if you look at the polling or many of the polls that I've seen over the years, there seems to be a lot of consumer Hoosier acceptance of Sunday sales and expanded cold beer sales. Why not also try to get the expanded cold beer piece as part of this?
For Sunday sales, Sunday is the second busiest shopping day of the week. Our members, customers have said to them for years that they want the ability to purchase alcoholic beverages on Sunday when they're doing the rest of their family's grocery shopping. And it makes no sense at all. There's no good public policy reason why a Hoosier family shouldn't be able to pick up a bottle of wine or a case of beer on Sunday when they're doing their grocery shopping. That has been throughout the years, a priority of the members of the Retail Council. It's been our primary focus in the State House over the years, and we're glad to work with Patrick and his membership to try to get that done. We recognize that in the legislative process and in conversations between interest groups, there's always compromise. And the compromise for us was to support their concern with regard to cold beer expansion, and at the same time to get the support of liquor store owners to permit drug and grocery stores to continue to sell and display liquor in their stores.
Yeah, so compromise of sorts to come together for this deal. I want to have you react to Jay Ricker, who was pretty adamant about his concerns with this deal. Here's what he said, the owner of Ricker's convenience stores.
They've all flip-flopped. That's why I call it the corrupt bargain. They're one way one day, and then the next day they're the other way. The consumers in the state of Indiana want to be able to buy cold beer any place where there's a license, and they want Sunday sales.
Patrick, I'll have you react. Your reaction to that.
Look, Hoosiers want solutions, and what we're doing here is taking two entities, two trade associations that vigorously represent their members, and we're looking for solutions for Indiana Hoosiers. What we're delivering is Sunday sales. Now, we're not delivering anything. This is our legislative priorities for this session. But working together is almost unprecedented, particularly on this issue. So what we're looking to do, consumers win. Well, we're not compromising on public safety. At the same time, Hoosiers want solutions. We're looking to deliver on Sunday sales, and hopefully Hoosiers throughout the state enjoy that very soon.
Grant, what can we expect? Alcohol Code Revision Commission recommending the Sunday sales proposal, but looking at a number of other issues, including expanded cold beer sales. They're meeting a couple more times before the end of the year.
Yes, they are. They have 2 more meetings scheduled over the next 3 weeks or so, and we'll see what their final package looks like. I have enormous respect for Jay Ricker. He is a very successful businessman who's contributed a lot to the state of Indiana, and he deserves all of our respect. But at the same time, the legislative process is a dynamic one. It's always predicated on compromise, and I think this compromise is critical to the legislative process on alcoholic beverage issues. To the point that I think, going forward, when the 2018 session is behind us, and hopefully we have enacted the compromise that we've agreed to, the legislature has enacted it, that really sets a new tone for both of our associations and our memberships going forward. I think this puts an end to the alcohol wars in the State House for a long time.
Okay, with that, we'll call it a segment. Patrick Tam, Grant Monahan, interesting story. We'll be following it in the weeks and months ahead.
Still to come, a big effort is underway to boost affordable housing throughout the state, and an indie startup is looking to take the lead in an emerging science. But first, 2 organizations are partnering up to provide pro bono services to Indiana inventors, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and even some small businesses. The Patent Connect program matches Indiana inventors with volunteer attorneys who help with patent and trademark services. Intellectual Property Law Clinic Director Norm Hedges and Center for Intellectual Property Research Director Mark Janis were in studio to detail the partnership.
This is, I think, a really impactful program that maybe a lot of people don't know about. Norm, I'll start with you. You talk about pro bono legal services, patent, IP type work. That's a big deal to get free service. Talk about how the program works.
So I explain to people that we're essentially a small law firm that specializes in intellectual property matters, so patents, copyrights, and trademarks. And we're staffed by students at the law school in Bloomington under my supervision, and I have a couple of adjunct faculty members as well that assist us. But small businesses, startup companies come to us looking for assistance on IP matters, and then we get the students involved, so they kind of start cutting their teeth in the practice of law, and at the same time our clients get the benefit of having free legal services.
Yeah, and under the umbrella of the Maurer School of Law at IU, how many entrepreneurs, innovators have you helped? This program launched in 2015.
Since 2015, we've probably had about 150 clients come through the clinic side of our program. And probably have about 100 active engagements going on right now with those clients at the various stages of their intellectual property matters.
Mark, this is under the umbrella, too, of the Center for IP Research.
Yep.
And you talk about this program and the impact that it's really had, the goal, if you will, of the organization.
Well, what we're trying to do is develop this community of intellectual property professionals, and there's so many fantastic resources already in the state. We've got students coming to us from all over the country to study intellectual property law. We've got a great practicing private practice intellectual property bar. We've got entrepreneurs all over the state who need the help from us. And it's amazing to have somebody like Norm who's able to go out and put all these pieces together and hopefully play our little part in economic development efforts in the state.
Yeah, you're also a patent hub, if you will. There's a Patent Connect piece to this as well, where you're matching entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So that's another U.S. Patent and Trademark Office program. They've designated our center as the patent hub for the state. And that means that the Patent Office wants us to, and we have done, create a network, referral network, so that Indiana entrepreneurs can be matched with volunteer patent lawyers to get the same kind of pro bono legal services that perhaps otherwise the clinic might provide.
Norm, you've got a lot of examples. Give us one. I know we were talking about a Warsaw company. You helped to really get things going.
Yeah, that's Cable Bullet. They're a company out of Warsaw. They make cable tension systems that you would see on decks or in interiors, and they came up with a unique way to make the process faster, a little cleaner as far as that's concerned. And they got to a point where they were successful enough in their business that they no longer needed our services, and so we kind of launched them from the nest best, if you will, and now they're outpaying a professional for those services.
Yeah, it's a very impactful programs at IU at the Maurer School of Law, Patent Connect, also pro bono services as well. Norm Hedges, Mark Janis, thanks very much. You got a presence at the Union 525, I know, in downtown
Correct.
Indianapolis and other places. Thanks for joining us. Keep us posted.
Later on the podcast, an indie company is on the front edge of some new science, and the innovators spotlights new fashion technology. But now, the Moving Forward program has 4 affordable housing developments underway throughout the state in Fort Wayne, Bloomington, Indianapolis, and Lafayette, with another set for East Chicago. The initiative is geared towards single parents working to increase their education level. Energy Systems Network CEO Paul Mitchell and Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority Executive Director Jacob Sipe give us an update on the Moving Forward program.
Jacob, we're going to start with you. This issue of affordable housing really is a big issue in Indiana and other states as well.
Yes, when our households have monthly expenses that exceed 30% for housing, it's an issue. And specifically, that's really hard on our lower and moderate income families. When you throw in transportation, we're looking at 15%. And oftentimes, when you look at that, we're well above 45% for our households. And so, rather than that's the real issue that we're trying to solve here.
Yeah, and Paul, as you look at that, and the two entities coming together on this in a unique way to look at that energy piece, look at the transportation piece, and put it all together to kind of attack the affordability issue.
Right, you got to take a holistic approach. These things are often siloed. We think of transportation and housing as two separate parts of the economy. People don't have a separate budget for housing and transportation, and so we've blended the approach and looked at how can we drive costs down through more energy efficient design of the buildings, and then also drive transportation costs by using new technologies like sharing vehicles, electric vehicles, and multimodal transportation.
Yeah, you've got a number of projects underway, ground broken up in Fort Wayne as an example, and you are just back from East Chicago. So, Paul, I'll start with you on the Fort Wayne project. Talk about the project and what it will ultimately be.
So the Fort Wayne project, which is part of Moving Forward, it's called Prosperity Heights. It's targeting single-parent families. When completed, it's going to be a net zero development, meaning there'll be enough renewable energy produced on site to balance out the energy that's bought from the local grid. They're going to have car-sharing cars at the site. They're going to have an app for the tenants to use to stay in communication with each other and see how their energy bills are coming down in real time. So a lot of innovative technology involved.
Yeah, a lot of technology. And Jacob, you and Paul just back from East Chicago in an intensive 2-day workshop, if you will. Why is that important to this process? I know you want to make these projects specific to the specific areas.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, in East Chicago, we had a major challenge there, very complex, related to the West Calumet apartments and some contamination on the soil. So when we look at a systems approach, we think about housing, transportation, energy, quality of life. We could take those challenges on if we slow it down and we get everybody in a room with different disciplines and really put forth real solutions. And that's what we did in East Chicago.
Yeah, Paul, as we wrap up, Indy, Bloomington, Lafayette, you're talking East Chicago now. Can this be a model for something much bigger? Where do you see this going over the next number of years?
No, I think it already is a model, and what we'd like to see happen is that this becomes the norm in how affordable housing is developed, not only here in Indiana, but across the country. And we'd also like to see it expand into market rate housing, right? Developers that aren't just building housing for affordable units, but all buildings and all types. And you're seeing a lot of technology that's out there, and we can get it done.
All right. Moving Forward is the initiative, going statewide, innovative program. Paul Mitchell, also Jacob Sipe, thanks very much for joining us.
Still to come, an Indiana company is bringing safety technology to the fashion industry, and an Indy winery celebrates an expansion. But first, Indianapolis-based Ascus is looking to be a pioneer in the emerging science of endomicrobial ecology, basically using a natural approach to improve animal health. The company has identified more than 50,000 unique microbial strains in hopes of learning how what's in an animal's gut can affect health and performance. COO Bill Weldon, a former executive with Eli Lilly's animal health unit Elanco, joined Inside Indiana Business health contributor Barb Lewis to break down the concept.
So you're just about to launch this first product. What is the need for a natural supplement for dairy cows?
Yeah, when we think about providing milk to people, and consumers are asking for us to use different tools. Mm-hmm. So what we're really doing is using a science called endomicrobial ecology to actually go in and understand what's happening inside the cow and help her have a better rumen or a better stomach so that she can be healthier and she can produce more milk.
Because we know we hear a lot about microbiomes, but is this something, this kind of technology or the ability to really understand what's going on in cow's stomach? Is that why this product is launching now?
Yeah, I think as we learn more about it and as technologies advance, we're able to understand things we weren't able to understand before. So it gives us a better ability to select microbes that are important, mm-hmm. that keep that cow healthy and allow her to perform better.
Okay, and so in terms of future uses, I mean, you're using this in cows now. And now I'm asking you this, you haven't launched your first product, you're just about to do that, but are there other species that this could be used for?
Yeah, the technology platform that we use is actually applicable across all livestock species and even pets. So we have ongoing programs across all of those different areas to help bring these types of products across many different areas that can really help us achieve our mission.
Okay, so this company was started in San Diego, headquartered in San Diego, but then you have a real presence here. What are you doing in Indianapolis?
Yeah, San Diego is where our scientific headquarters are, and then our commercial headquarters are here. So our sales and marketing, regulatory, and those types of functions are headquartered here in Indianapolis.
Okay, so in terms of this launch now, where will it be launched, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, our first launches will be outside the U.S., so Argentina is the first country, and then we're working through different regulatory authorities around the globe to bring this product to dairy industries really around the world.
Okay, but getting back to the science for a second, so you have the microbiome. Is that something we think of the human genome, things that are being mapped? So is that what you did with the cows, or was that technology available to you?
Yeah, actually we essentially fingerprinted all the microbes inside the cow. So endomicrobial means the microbes inside. We look at their function, we look at how they interact with the environment or their feed, and then we look at how they interact with each other. So these microbes exist as communities, and some are really important, and we pick those out, and that's what we turn into our endomicrobial feed supplements.
Okay, when you think of a healthier cow, we think of a healthier product down the road for the consumer. What really will this mean for all of us if the cows are healthier?
Yeah, if cows are healthier, we have milk that's more available, so we have more milk, and then we have milk that's more affordable as well.
Okay, great. So this product then, when you launch it, you'll go ahead and things will just kind of roll out quickly. I mean, once you do the regulatory product process globally, then how does it start in the U.S.?
Yeah, it'll be a few years before we come to the market in the U.S. So we're kind of working through all of those processes right now. So it's hard to actually say exactly when we'll have it, but we're going to use those markets around the world and work our way to the U.S. as soon as we possibly can.
All right, Bill. Well, good luck to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for having us on.
Coming up later in the podcast, a more than 40-year-old winery continues to grow, and our panel of insiders takes on this week's top stories. But now, Aubrey Lane bills itself as a first-of-its-kind safety technology and fashion company. The indie startup makes leather handbags that are equipped with a hidden GPS tracker and SOS button that, once activated, makes the user reachable virtually anywhere. Aubrey Lane and founder Jordan Hetland were featured on the Innovators with Dr. K.
I always ask this of my guests, where did this idea come from?
So, interestingly enough, I looked at a problem. I have a background in tech and in law enforcement. And I realized there was just something missing in how women and now children call for help if their phone is taken from them. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to bring something to market that they could have as a secondary device, kind of an alternative, and put it into a valuable container that would be great for adoption. So handbags.
Yeah. Specific problem it's solving. What do you see as the
So it solves a couple of different things, right? So you can't turn on the news any time today without seeing some type of dangerous situation going on, or a woman being attacked or a child being attacked. So what I wanted to do was, one, bridge the gap, and it's two different things. So it's an active notification system, and it's an actual cell phone, all right? And you hit this button, and it sends a text message to 5 people, and then it calls them. So it doesn't tie to your phone, it's an actual cell phone. But it's also a GPS tracker. So it's hidden inside of our bags, inside a hidden pocket. And so if your bag is stolen, which does unfortunately happen, you could track it. You can go to our webpage and locate your amulet, or you can use our mobile app.
Why the name Aubrey Lane? Where'd you come with that?
So, it's interesting when you ask about that, because a lot of people do. And really, Aubrey Lane is not a person. Aubrey Lane is every woman. So this is not about us. It's really about you. And so our focus is really about our customer and women, and that's who we wanted this to be about.
So kind of a generic name for the women, right? It's just
it's correct. Every woman is Aubrey Lane, and it's really about empowerment for women and helping to keep them safe.
Great. Clever innovation. So what about a market for this? How big do you see this market? What do you see for it?
I have to tell you that the market is tremendous. All right. So the U.S. handbag market alone is about $10 billion, and then adding safety technology is even larger. We're planning expanding into Mexico. In fact, we're very close right now, and in Brazil, which would be a tremendous market opportunity down there.
Outstanding.
We look in the next 5+ years, $30 to $60 million in growth for us.
Fantastic. How have you funded this so far, Jordan?
I have to tell you, so it's been an interesting process. First and foremost is we got an SBA loan through Huntington Bank. So Huntington National Bank has been tremendous for us. And then I dumped the rest of my money into it.
So
I kind of bootstrapped the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What do you see as you already mentioned kind of the growth potential.
Yep.
But what are some things you've got planned? I heard a Black Friday coming up.
Absolutely.
So
we've got Black Friday coming up. It's a tremendous opportunity for us. We got Cyber Monday, the holidays.
Fantastic.
Our expansion into Mexico and Brazil. We sell all over the United States, and it's interesting. Our customer base is 16 to 89.
Wow.
And then we just released some kids bags, so it's actually going to open up that market.
Wow.
And then the Mexico piece is important, and Brazil is tremendous for us.
Are those the next steps for this year for you?
Absolutely. So in fact, we're very close to inking a contract with a large distributor down in Mexico within the next week is where we're looking at.
Fantastic. Well, as I do on each and every show, I try to provide what I call Dr. K's prescriptions to help our guests, and I hope that I provide some for you. These are what I call the 3 Ps for new venture development. And so the first P that we have on the screen is publicity, to try to create an awareness for your product for concerned women. And so I think you're trying to do that. I know we talked off camera about getting on Facebook and getting this out to people. So I think that's great, and I hope this show helps as well. The second is partnerships, to think about establishing industry partners for inclusion in either other safety products or other fashion products, which I think would be fabulous because you could do some licensing there.
Correct.
And the third is product development, further derivative products off of this, which I know you and I talked about, you're already working on, which I think is fabulous. So I hope those 3 Ps can help you as you go forward, Jordan.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And where can our audience find you?
So they can find us at aubreylane.com. AUBRYLANE.com.
So not EY, but just BRY.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Still to come, a panel of insiders takes on the biggest stories of the week. But first, a growing Indianapolis winery is celebrating a multi-million-dollar expansion and a major production milestone. Easley Winery's reggae wines are available in stores in Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, Michigan, Tennessee, Maryland, Virginia, and New York. And a new expansion will enable the winery to autofill bottles in high volume. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has the story.
Nestled in the heart of downtown Indianapolis is Indiana's oldest family-owned winery.
When it was first selected by my mother and father, it probably was looked at kind of crazy because most wineries are rural agricultural endeavors.
Jack and Joan Easley opened right here at 205 North College in what was previously known as Furtick's Ice Creamery. Back then, Jack and Joan were hobbyist winemakers.
Mother and father approached it from a business standpoint. Where is the best place to grow grapes and where's the best place to sell wine?
The best place to sell wine turned out to be Indianapolis. Easley Winery crushed its very first grapes in 1974, and over 40 years later, second-generation co-owners Meredith and Bob Easley have invested $2 million in cutting-edge bottling technology to expand the Easley brand.
The big distinction from our previous machine that we had is the technology and the automation. A lot of programmable logic. They have onboard computers in the machines that anticipate things and make adjustments to pumps, make adjustments to inert gases that we're using for blanketing, like nitrogen and CO2. So that anticipation takes out the human factor and gives us a more consistent product coming out of the line. So it actually does a better job than if we were doing it with humans.
For nearly 10 years, Easley used this machine you see behind me to bottle 1,200 cases of wine a day. Fast forward to 2017, and the Easley's $2 million investment on the latest technology and bottling equipment has the winery doubling its output to 30,000 bottles of wine a day.
Instead of making 1,000 gallons of wine, we'll make 3,000 gallons of wine. We have the ability to double our capacity in the coming 3 to 5 years.
What do you think your parents would say about the operation now?
Well, I hope they would be proud. It certainly grew into something, I think, more than they anticipated in 1974. We're in the top, I think, at least 10% of the wineries in the country now as far as volume and production. It's providing a lot of jobs here in Indiana, and I think we make a good product that Indiana can be proud of.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
Inside Indiana Business Television again brought together a group of insiders to offer perspective on the week's top stories. This week's Insiders panel includes Ball State University Center for Business and Economic Research Director Mike Hicks, Leadership Indianapolis CEO Christina Hale, and IndyPolitics.org publisher Abdul Hakim Shabazz, weighing in on topics including Sunday alcohol sales, Indiana seeking more venture capital, and the legacy of Richard Lugar.
We start with one of the big stories of the week, certainly. It actually broke, Abdul, a week ago. I was surprised by it. It was in the middle of the day, if I remember, on Friday. We get a news release in talking about this truce that would create support from two previously warring factions for Sunday carry-out sales.
Actually, I was going to sound really bad, sitting at the bar at the Antelope Club in downtown Indianapolis, not too far from here, when the text release came out, and Grant Monahan from the Retail Council was having lunch, so I immediately run over to grab him, like, hey, what's going on here? Yeah. And yeah, it looks like the two warring factions, the grocery store people, the liquor store people, saying, hey, we'll have Sunday sales, but you get to keep your cold beer. The problem is that agreement is only binding amongst those two parties. This is not what the Summer Soda Committee is coming back with. And there was some pushback from the convenience stores who feel like they've sort of, getting the short end of the beer spout here, as well as, the general public that's thinking, hey, here's collusion between these two big lobby groups. What does this do for us in the general public?
Yeah, what your take, anybody can jump in too, but Jay Ricker, the Ricker's convenience stores, was a real forceful voice on kind of pushing this cold beer sales, expanded cold beer sales issue. He and other convenience stores are out in the cold. At least right now.
At least right now. The Summer Study Committee that's looking at this is going to come back in December. They got still a couple more meetings left, and one of the proposals is actually to allow for cold beer sales anywhere and everywhere, just only between, say, noon and 8 on Sunday, some weird time. But I wouldn't count anybody out then. At the end of the day, don't forget, still, the Indiana General Assembly, as Christina will tell you, will have the final say.
Yeah, and this is all about business and not about convenience or consumer. And I can tell you, legislators, they poll their district, they know, and people are just fatigued of this whole battle. They're ready, let's get this out of the way and move forward.
What do you see happening here? Again, a long way to go. The Alcohol Code Revision Commission, I think, meets a couple more times before the legislative session when the real decisions are made. How do you see this kind of playing out?
I think finally something will happen. I think we're going to have Sunday sales. I think they're going to continue to fight over who gets to sell cold beer, and they're going to try to hatch together a deal. And I think it would behoove business to not become the inconvenience lobby. I think they just need to really come together and do something for the end user, because how silly is it? Doesn't make sense to any Hoosier. You can go to a bar and get hammered, but you can't buy beer at Sunday.
Yep.
Well, the only argument has ever been that there are a number of businesses that have investment in either holding the license or operating under the current rules, and they needed time to adjust. We're now 6-8 years into this. They've known that this is coming. The pendulum is swinging. It's time for a change, and I think we'll get something more like the rest of the country this session.
Yeah, it will be interesting to watch play out in the legislative session in 2018. Another big story that got some attention this week, Lessonly, an Indianapolis-based technology company, software company, getting another $8 million in funding. I think they've raised something like $14 million in total. They're looking to perhaps double their employment footprint here. There have been other stories over the past couple of months. Mike, do you see finally more venture capital beginning to come into the state and help grow some of these startups?
Yeah, absolutely. So 20 years ago, you couldn't probably start a technology company in Indiana. You couldn't access the venture capital and the other things that VC firms wanted you to have: management, broad technology, HR experience, that sort of thing. Today, that's not an issue. I mean, we're not Boston. This isn't New York. This is not going to be San Francisco. But nobody is going to have to relocate for VC here in Indiana. And part of that's the 21st Century Fund and more than a decade of success. But it's also just a recognition of what's happening at Purdue, IU, the other universities.
And things like, things like the increase in nonstop flights with the VC people on each of the coasts have complained about for years. That's changing as well.
Right. All the pieces are coming together for that. I think we're going to see that continue. We'll be back talking about this in 10 years.
SmartBox is a digital company in New Albany, southeast Indiana, that announced plans to expand and add 100 jobs over the next couple of years. And Christina, I bring that up because there's so much talk and continues to be about kind of that divide between rural or smaller community, if you will, Indiana, and the big cities, and that gap. We don't see as many stories like this coming in place as in some of the smaller communities around the state.
Yeah, it's a real success story of talent out there. There's still things that we have to put into place. You know, we still hear people talking about the cry for rural broadband and other supports out there so people not only can thrive where they are, but they want to stay and grow their families. So they need that job opportunity, but they need all the other sort of supports so that they can know their kids are going to be going to good schools, they can access everything that somebody else could in a larger metropolitan area.
Do you see the gap, that divide, if you will, that's talked about a lot? Abdul, Public Policy Institute had a big event this week focused. Do you see it getting wider? Do you see it or getting any better?
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately, because while you've got some mayors out there that are really thoughtful, really innovative. You look, Lloyd Winnicky down in Evansville, Greg Goodnight, Kokomo, Tom McDermott, up in the Hammond area. These guys are really saying, hey, let's try to maximize our resources. Unfortunately, you're still fighting against that. Your grandfather's Indiana, these are the people who don't want cold beer on Sunday and still don't like to change their clocks. And unfortunately, until attrition kicks in and some of these folks just kind of go on to the happy Hoosier hunting grounds in the sky, you're still going to have to be fighting some of that attitude.
And we'll have winners or losers in these communities. Right. I mean, you go around the state, as I have quite recently, and you'll see, just the way the issue of drug addiction is handled, and it varies county by county. The fact that most of our county sheriffs are the leading provider of mental health services, other support services. We have 20 counties that have inadequate OBGYN services, so women can't even give birth where they live. So I think also we have to take a look at some of these other issues that impact people right where they are in the most human of ways.
Yep.
Yeah, 30 Indiana counties have been losing population for decades. Another 30 are barely passing, and the urban places are doing great. And so somehow the equilibrium conditions where we don't see places that are turning into ghost towns and see more places that are growing is a huge public policy problem. It's the real public policy problem for Indiana for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
That is a big part of this leadership. The communities and the areas that are growing have good leadership. Those that aren't, perhaps not as good leadership.
Leadership plays an outside role. I mean, if you look, we talked about these three mayors are a perfect example of places that are doing the right things, investing. And unfortunately, there are a lot of places, small towns, Muncie, Terre Haute, that are really struggling, that have not got it together to make the focused generation-long investment to get to the other side of this. It's schools, it's healthcare, it's the whole gamut.
I was a commissioner and part of the formation of this report from the IU School of Public Policy, or the Public Policy Institute, and one of their top findings across the board, rural, suburban, urban, was a lack of leadership, civic leadership, and that we had to be much more intentional, structured, and thoughtful about how we cultivate this everywhere.
Yeah, leadership was on display, I think, last week. The Indiana City County, or the Indy City County building, the plaza there that's under construction, named for former mayor, former Senator Richard Lugar. Mayors were on hand for that, and I think it was a real opportunity to kind of reflect on the leadership, certainly Senator Lugar, former Mayor Lugar, but a series of mayors from both parties here in Indianapolis.
That brought joy to my heart because that group really speaks to the high quality and really our brand as Central Indiana, as Indianapolis, that we have developed civic leaders of excellence. Even the Kennedy School of Government has recognized us, UniGov, all the cooperation that's happened over time.
And I think if you look at the history of Indianapolis mayors, Indianapolis has always gotten the mayor that is needed for the time. Lugar, UniGov, Goldsmith sort of modernizing, Bart Peterson sort of, Lucas Oil Stadium, Greg Ballard with the blocking and tackling with the roads infrastructure. I think Joe's has only had a couple years in office, so his legacy has yet to be done. But Indianapolis has always had good mayors and the right mayors at the right time.
Well said, Abdul Hakim Shabazz, Christina Hale, Mike Hicks. Thanks for a great Insiders panel.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.